Hey, it's Daniel Pomerantz with Reality Check, and the question I'm getting a lot now is how do you know if a country is committing war crimes? And there actually is a legal and mathematical tool that you can use to get rid of all of the agenda and all of the opinion and at least get a good sense of whether it is likely that that's the case or not. So the first thing you do is you look at international law. There's the Geneva Conventions, there's the Hague Accords, and there's a number of others that give you a sense of when something is a war crime. And in the movies they like to say all wars are crimes, and it's a dramatic thing to say, but the truth is in international law it points out that there might be a need for self-defense. You might need to stop a genocide somewhere. There are a number of reasons why a war might be permitted under international law, and but that doesn't mean that you can just do whatever you want. You are absolutely not allowed to intentionally target civilians, and you have to do the best that you can to take care that you don't harm civilians accidentally, at least as much as possible. And nobody's expected to be perfect, but there's this ratio called the civilian to combatant casualty ratio, which gives a sense of whether a country is making an effort to follow these laws or not. And the United Nations has a statistic that in general around the world in all wars the ratio is about 9-1, meaning there are about 9 civilian casualties for every 1 combatant casualty, which is actually a pretty horrifying statistic when you think about it. In the Iraq War, for example, in 2003, the America's National Institutes of Health estimates it at 3-1. Afghanistan, there are a number of different bodies that estimated anywhere from 3-1 to 5-1. So there was just this conflict, for example, where Israel was fighting last week against Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is recognized by most of the international community as a terror organization. And the ratio there was 0.6-1 on the Israeli side. So that is that's one of the lowest ratios you ever see in the world, and you cannot get numbers that low unless the country is making a really enormous effort to protect civilians and avoid civilian casualties. And we know that this number is correct because we can take the numbers from the Palestinian Ministry of Health, which was 33 casualties. We take the number of combatants, which Israel's actually released their names, and so we can track who they are. There were 18 of those. We take the number of Palestinian civilians who were killed by Palestinian Islamic Jihad's own rocket fire. So those happened as well. And then based on all of that, you do the math and you get that 0.6-1. On the other hand, Palestinian Islamic Jihad was attacking Israel. They killed 1 Israeli civilian. They killed 1 Palestinian civilian from Gaza who was working in Israel at the time, and they killed 4 of their own civilians in Gaza. They killed 0 combatants. So that's a ratio of 6-0. And that ratio is almost impossible to achieve unless the fighting force is intentionally trying to target civilians and not even making an effort to fight any kind of a legitimate military conflict at all. As horrible as military conflicts are, there's a difference between a military conflict and an intention to just attack civilians. And so there's going to be a lot of opinion on this topic. There's going to be a lot of agenda. But if you start from the law and the math, you can at least begin forming a basis to develop your own opinion of what the reality most likely is. Hope that's helpful. Drop us a comment.